Chapter 1. The Perfect Facade. Lena Montgomery had it all. A luxurious penthouse in the heart of the city, a successful husband, and a life many would envy. David Montgomery, a shrewd corporate lawyer, had built an empire with his sharp mind and relentless ambition. To the outside world, they were the golden couple, beautiful, wealthy, and deeply in love. But behind closed doors, their marriage was a hollow shell. David was always buried in work, leaving Lena to drown in loneliness. She had tried at first to bridge the growing gap between them, romantic dinners, spontaneous trips, even therapy. But David's indifference had worn her down. Then came Daniel Hartman. He was everything David wasn't: attentive, passionate, and dangerously charming. Lena met him at an art gallery opening, where he was the featured photographer. Their connection was instant, electric. What started as innocent flirting quickly spiraled into secret rendezvous, stolen kisses, and heated nights in hotel rooms Lena booked under fake names. She told herself it was just an escape, that she would end it before things went too far. But the thrill of deception was intoxicating. One evening, as Lena slipped back into her penthouse at midnight, she froze. The lights were on. David sat in the living room, a glass of whiskey in hand, his expression unreadable. "Long meeting?" he asked, his voice eerily calm. Lena's pulse spiked. "Why, yes. The charity event ran late." David swirled his drink, then took a slow sip. "Funny. Called the organizer. They said it ended at 9. A cold dread slithered down Lena's spine. David set his glass down and stood, his eyes locking onto hers with terrifying intensity. "We need to talk, Lena." Chapter 2. The Unraveling. Lena's breath hitched as David stepped closer, his polished shoes clicking against the marble floor. The air between them was thick with tension, the kind that precedes a storm. "David, I can explain," she began, but he raised a hand, silencing her. "No," he said, his voice low and controlled. "You're going to listen." He reached into his suit pocket and pulled out his phone. With a few taps, he turned the screen toward her. Her stomach dropped. There, in crystal-clear detail, were photos of her and Daniel, entering a hotel, laughing in a dimly lit bar, his hand resting on the small of her back. The most damning one was a shot through a half-open hotel room door, capturing a kiss that left no room for misinterpretation. Lena's hands trembled. How long had he known? David's expression was unreadable. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Then, unexpectedly, David's lips curled into a cold smile. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to end it with him. Tonight. And you're going to do it exactly how I say." Lena blinked. This wasn't the reaction she expected. No screaming, no threats of divorce. Just calm calculation. "Why?" she whispered. David's smile didn't waver. "Because I'm not done with you yet." He handed her his phone. On the screen was a drafted message to Daniel. "Meet me at the usual place. I have something important to tell you." Lena's fingers hovered over the keyboard. "What are you planning?" David leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. "You'll see." Chapter 3. The Trap. Lena's fingers trembled as she sent the message to Daniel. The weight of David's presence behind her was suffocating. His breath steady, his silence more terrifying than any outburst. "What does he want?" She turned to face him, searching his eyes for any hint of emotion. But David had always been a master of control. His expression was unreadable, his posture relaxed, as if this were just another business negotiation. "Now what?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. David took his phone back, slipping it into his pocket with deliberate slowness. "Now we wait." 2 hours later. The Azure Hotel, room 1204. Lena stood by the window, staring down at the city lights flickering below. The penthouse suite was too familiar, the same place she had met Daniel countless times before. Only this time David was here too, hidden in the adjacent room, watching, waiting. A knock at the door made her jump. Daniel's voice, warm and eager, called through the wood. "Lena, you okay?" Your text sounded urgent. She swallowed hard, glancing at the closed bedroom door where David lurked. "This is a mistake." But it was too late to back out now. With a deep breath, she opened the door. Daniel stood there, his dark hair slightly tousled from the night breeze, his hazel eyes filled with concern. He stepped inside, reaching for her hand. "Hey, what's going?" The bedroom door creaked open. Daniel froze. David stepped into view, his hands in his pockets, his smile razor-sharp. "Hello, Daniel." The color drained from Daniel's face. "What the hell is this?" Lena couldn't speak. Her throat tightened as she watched the two men lock eyes, one stunned, the other eerily composed. David chuckled. "Relax. I just wanted to meet the man my wife's been fucking." Daniel's jaw clenched. He looked at Lena, betrayal flashing in his eyes. "You told him?" "No," she whispered. He already knew." David strolled forward, circling Daniel like a predator sizing up prey. "You know, I did some digging on you, Daniel. Freelance photographer. Modest income. A few minor scandals. Sleeping with clients, broken contracts." He paused. "But nothing quite like this." Daniel's fists tightened. "What do you want?" David stopped in front of him. "I want you to understand something." His voice dropped, low and dangerous. "Lena is mine. And I don't share." Before Daniel could react, David pulled out his phone again and tapped the screen. A video began playing. Security footage of Daniel entering the hotel with Lena, their embraces, their whispered conversations. Daniel paled. "You've been watching us." David smirked. "I'm a lawyer, Daniel. Evidence is what I do." He pocketed the phone. "Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk out that door and never contact Lena again. If you do, this footage goes public. Your reputation ruined. Your career over." Daniel's chest rose and fell rapidly. He looked at Lena, his expression torn between fury and hurt. "You're just going to let this happen." She opened her mouth, but David cut in. "She doesn't have a choice." Silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. Finally, Daniel scoffed, shaking his head. "Fine. You win." He turned to leave, but at the door he glanced back, his voice dripping with venom. "But you should ask yourself, David, why did she run to me in the first place?" The door slammed behind him. Lena flinched. David exhaled slowly, then turned to her, his gaze icy. "Now, it's your turn." Chapter 4. The Devil's Bargain. The silence in the hotel suite was suffocating. Lena stood frozen, her back pressed against the floor-to-ceiling window as David advanced toward her, his polished shoes clicking against the marble like a ticking time bomb. "Now, it's your turn." Her pulse roared in her ears. "What do you want from me?" David stopped inches away, his cologne, something expensive and woody, filling the space between them. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a single sheet of paper. "A post-nuptial agreement," he said smoothly, handing it to her. "Sign it and we move forward. Refuse, and the divorce will leave you with nothing but the clothes on your back, and a very public scandal." Lena's hands shook as she scanned the document. The terms were brutal. She would forfeit all claims to his assets. She would remain his wife in public, maintaining the illusion of a perfect marriage. Any infidelity on her part would result in immediate financial ruin. Her throat tightened. "You're blackmailing me into staying." David's smile was glacial. "I'm giving you a chance to fix your mistake." He pulled out a pen. "Sign. Now." Lena hesitated, her mind racing. There had to be another way. But with the evidence he had, with the life she'd lose, what choice did she have? To sign. David took the paper, folding it neatly into his pocket. "Good girl." He turned toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and Lena, I'd stay away from your phone tonight. Daniel might try to call." Her blood ran cold. "What did you do?" David didn't answer. He simply walked out, leaving her standing there, the weight of her chains settling around her. The first twist. Daniel's silence. Lena waited until she heard the elevator ding before grabbing her phone. Her fingers flew across the screen as she dialed Daniel's number. One ring. 3. Voicemail. She tried again. And again. Nothing. A sickening dread coiled in her stomach. David had done something. She knew it. Then, a notification. A news alert. Breaking. Local photographer Daniel Hartman hospitalized after hit and run. Lena's breath stopped. The article listed the time of the accident. 9:47 p.m. The exact time he left the hotel. The second twist. The hidden camera. Lena rushed back to the penthouse, her mind spinning. David wasn't just punishing her. He was erasing Daniel. But when she stepped inside, something felt off. The air was too still. The lights too bright. Then she saw it. A tiny, almost imperceptible red light blinking near the bookshelf. Camera. Her stomach dropped. David wasn't just watching her outside the house. He was watching her inside it too. The third twist, the safe. Lena waited until 3 a.m., when she was sure David was asleep, before creeping into his home office. She knew where he kept his secrets. The safe behind the Monet painting. She typed in the code, their wedding date, but it didn't work. Course he changed it. Then she remembered something. David's favorite number. The one he used for everything. July 13th, 21. The safe clicked open. Inside was a file labeled Project Phoenix. She opened it. And her world shattered. The final revelation. The documents inside were old. Very old. Life insurance policies. Medical records. And photos. Of another woman. A woman who looked just like her. A woman named Elena. David's first wife. Who had died in a car accident 5 years ago. Lena's hands trembled as she flipped to the last page. A handwritten note in David's precise script. Phase 1 complete. Subject shows no signs of suspicion. Lena stumbled back, her legs giving out. She wasn't his wife. She was his experiment. Chapter 5. The Ghost in the Mirror. Lena's breath came in ragged gasps as she stared at the photo of Elena. Her own face staring back, but with subtle differences. The curve of her smile was softer. Her eyes a shade lighter. A sister. Twin. The dates didn't add up. Elena had died before Lena had even met David. Her hands shook as she flipped through the medical records. Genetic compatibility reports. Psychological evaluations. Even fertility charts. Subject shows ideal receptiveness to memory implantation. A cold realization slithered through her. He didn't just want a wife. He wanted a replacement. The first clue, the locked room. David was gone for the weekend. Business in Zurich, he'd said, giving Lena time to dig deeper. The penthouse had always felt like a gilded cage. But now she saw the bars for the first time. The cameras. The biometric locks. The way the staff never met her eyes. She waited until midnight before picking the lock on the one door David had always forbidden her from entering. The basement storage room. The air inside was thick with the scent of antiseptic. Shelves lined the walls, filled with labeled boxes. Lena's clothes. Lena's jewelry. Lena's diaries. Lena reached for the last one, her fingers brushing the embossed leather. A floorboard creaked behind her. She whirled around. The housekeeper, Mrs. Alvarez, stood in the doorway, her face unreadable. "You weren't supposed to see this," she said softly. The second clue, the doctor's visit. Lena woke up in her bed, sunlight streaming through the windows. Had she dreamed it? Then she saw it, a faint bruise on her forearm. A needle mark. Her pulse spiked. She scrambled for her phone, dialing the only person she could trust. Her older sister, Claire. "Lena." Claire's voice was groggy. "It's 4 a.m. What happened to me before I met David?" Lena demanded. Silence. "Lena, you were in a coma." The third clue, the missing year. Claire's words tore through her like shrapnel. You were in a car accident. You don't remember. Lena's mind reeled. Oh. She remembered college. Her art gallery job. Meeting David at a charity gala. But the dates. The accident had happened a year before she supposedly met David. Which meant her memories were lies. The final clue. The reflection. Lena stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at her own face. Then she noticed it. A tiny scar near her hairline, one she'd never seen before. She pressed her fingers to it. And remembered. A white room. A man in a lab coat. David's voice. She's perfect. The truth. Lena wasn't David's wife. She wasn't even Lena. She was a reconstruction. A carefully crafted doll, molded from Elena's DNA, implanted with false memories. And David didn't just control her. He owned her. Chapter 6. The House of Dolls. Lena's reflection in the mirror seemed to waver, as if the glass itself rejected the truth staring back at her. She wasn't real. Her hands gripped the sink, knuckles white. The scar on her temple pulsed under her fingertips, a phantom pain from a life she never lived. She's perfect. David's words echoed in her skull. She needed answers. And there was only one place left to look. The underground lab. The basement door was locked with a biometric scanner, retina and fingerprint. His fingerprints. But Lena had spent years watching David pour his whiskey, sign his documents, press his thumb to his phone. She knew his patterns. Pulling a wine glass from the cabinet, she held it up to the light, searching for smudges. David's thumbprint, faint but intact. She pressed the glass against the scanner. Access granted. The door hissed open, revealing a sterile white staircase descending into darkness. The first clone. The lab was colder than she expected. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, illuminating rows of cylindrical tanks filled with amber liquid. And inside them, bodies. Women with her face. Some floating peacefully, eyes closed. Others suspended mid-scream. Hands pressed against the glass as if begging to be freed. A choked sob escaped Lena's throat. She stumbled forward, her fingers brushing the closest tank. A label at the base read, Lena, 7. Neural assimilation failed. Terminated. The second clone. A desk sat in the corner, piled with files. Lena tore through them, her breath coming in ragged bursts. Lena 1. Rejected due to emotional instability. Lena 4. Memory corruption at stage 3. Lena 9. Successful implantation. Active. Her hands trembled as she flipped to the last page. A photograph of herself standing beside David at their wedding. But the date on the photo was 3 years ago. Before she remembered meeting him. The third clone. A sound behind her, a soft, wet click. Lena turned. One of the tanks was draining. The Lena inside it, Lena, 12, suddenly gasped, her eyes flying open as the fluid receded. She lunged forward, slamming against the glass, her mouth moving soundlessly. He knows. The lights went out. The final clone. A hand clamped over Lena's mouth from behind. David's voice, warm and familiar, whispered in her ear. I told you not to go downstairs, darling. She struggled, but his grip was iron. A needle pricked her neck. As the drugs dragged her under, she heard him sigh, almost fondly. Don't worry. We'll try again. Chapter 7. The Burning Phoenix. Consciousness returned in fractured pieces. A blinding white ceiling. The scent of antiseptic. The hum of machinery. And pain, searing pain, as if every nerve in her body had been set on fire. Lena tried to scream, but her throat was raw, her lips cracked. Where am I? What did he do to me? A shadow loomed over her. Ah, you're awake. David stood beside the bed, dressed in a lab coat, his glasses reflecting the sterile light. He held a tablet, scrolling through data with detached interest. Lena tried to sit up, but straps held her down, leather restraints binding her wrists, ankles, chest. Relax, David murmured, tapping the screen. The neural transfer is always disorienting at first. Neural transfer. The words slithered into her mind like poison. Her gaze darted to the mirror across the room, and the reflection staring back wasn't hers. Different cheekbones, fuller lips, a stranger's face. What did you do to me? Her voice was wrong too, higher, sharper. David didn't look up from his tablet. Your previous body was compromised. This one is healthier, younger, though we may need to adjust the vocal cords. Lena thrashed against the restraints, panic clawing up her throat. You can't do this. I already have. He finally met her eyes, his gaze chillingly clinical. 7 times, in fact. You always fight at first. It's fascinating. The first revelation, the cycle. Over the next agonizing days, Lena learned the truth. She wasn't the first. She wasn't even the 10th. Project Phoenix was David's life's work, a way to cheat death by transferring a consciousness into a cloned body. But the technology was flawed. The mind eroded with each transfer. Elena, one lasted 12 years, David explained as he adjusted Lena's 4. Elena 3. Only 6 months. The degradation is unpredictable. Lena's stomach turned. So you just replace them. I perfect them. He stroked her hair almost tenderly. You're my greatest success. You've lasted longer than any of the others. The second revelation. The others. When David left, Lena studied her new prison. The room was sleek, modern, a gilded cage with biometric locks. But there was a vent near the floor. And if she strained her ears, whispers, other voices, other Lenas. She pressed her ear to the grate and heard it. He's lying. The transfers aren't copies. They're overwrites. There's no soul left after the 3rd time. Then a voice that made her blood freeze. You have to kill him. Before he burns you away too. The 3rd revelation, the escape. The next time David entered, Lena played docile. She let him test her reflexes, let him murmur praises about her progress. And when he leaned in to adjust her restraints, she bit him. Hard enough to draw blood. As he recoiled, she snatched the scalpel from his pocket and slashed at the straps. You ungrateful. She plunged the blade into his thigh. David screamed. Lena ran. The final revelation, the fire. The hallway was a maze of locked doors and surveillance cameras. But the whispers guided her. Left, then right, then down. She found the control room, a bank of monitors showing cells, each holding a different version of herself in various states of awareness. Some screamed. Some stared blankly. One, the one from the tank, smiled and pressed a hand to the glass. Burn it all, she mouthed. Lena hesitated. Then she slammed her fist into the emergency alarm. The sprinklers erupted. The lights sparked. And deep in the facility something exploded. The twist, the survivor. Lena stumbled into the night, coughing smoke, her new skin blistering from the heat. The lab burned behind her, a funeral pyre for David's twisted legacy. But as she turned to leave, a hand grabbed her wrist. She spun ready to fight, and froze. Standing before her, face streaked with soot, was another Lena, older, wiser, and holding a gun. He's not dead, the woman said. He never dies. Chapter 8. The Immortal Hunt. The woman gripping Lena's wrist had her face, but not her eyes. Hers were hollow, burnt out. You're not the first to escape, the woman said, her voice rasping like wind through dead leaves. I was Lena 5. He called me his first success. Lena recoiled. How are you? Alive. The woman's lips peeled back in a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Because he let me live. To see what would happen. Behind them, the lab collapsed in a roar of flames, casting hellish shadows across the forest clearing. Somewhere in the inferno, the other clones, her other selves, were burning. Lena 5 didn't flinch. He'll come for you. He always does. The first hunt, the safe house. Lena 5 took her to a rotting cabin deep in the woods. Inside, the walls were papered with surveillance photos, news clippings, and scrawled notes, all tracing David's movements over decades. "He's older than you think," Lena 5 said, tossing her a burner phone. "I've tracked him through 7 identities. Always wealthy. Always powerful. Always hunting for the next breakthrough." Lena picked up a faded newspaper from 1973. A photo of a young scientist accepting an award. The same sharp jawline. The same cold eyes. "That's impossible." "He doesn't just clone us," Lena 5 whispered. "He clones himself too." The second hunt, the rival. At dawn, a car pulled up outside. Lena lunged for the gun, but Lena 5 held up a hand. "Wait." The door opened, and a man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar slashing across his throat. "Daniel!" Lena gasped. But this wasn't her Daniel. His eyes were harder. Older. "Hartman 12. Lena 5 corrected. "Another one of David's experiments. The only one who ever fought back." "Daniel, no Hartman," studied Lena with a predator's gaze. "So you're the new favorite." "I don't understand." "David doesn't just want immortality," he interrupted. "He wants perfection. And you're the closest he's ever gotten." He tossed a file onto the table. Inside were blueprints for a machine labeled Cerebral Overwrite Protocol. The third hunt, the bait. The plan was simple. Lena would be the bait. Hartman and Lena 5 had spent years building a weapon, a neural virus designed to corrupt David's mind during a transfer. "It won't kill him," Hartman warned. "But it'll trap him inside a rotting body. Make him feel what we felt." Lena's hands shook. "How do we even find him?" Lena 5 smiled grimly. "We don't. He finds us." She slid a syringe across the table. "This will make your brain emit the same distress signal as a failing clone. He'll think you're dying. And he'll come to save his investment." The final hunt, the trap. They set the trap in an abandoned asylum, a place David had used for early experiments. Lena lay on a gurney, feigning unconsciousness, the syringe's contents flooding her veins with artificial decay. Hartman hid in the shadows, a scalpel glinting in his grip. Lena 5 waited at the door, her finger on the trigger of a modified defibrillator, their delivery system for the virus. The step. David entered, his coat flaring behind him like a raven's wings. "Oh, Lena," he sighed, pressing a hand to her forehead. "What have you done to yourself?" Lena's eyes flew open. "What you taught me." Hartman struck first, the scalpel aimed for David's throat. But David moved faster. A gunshot rang out. Hartman crumpled, blood blooming across his chest. Lena 5 lunged with the defibrillator. David sidestepped, grabbed her arm, and snapped it with a sickening crack. "Pathetic," he muttered, kicking her aside. Then he turned to Lena, his gaze almost disappointed. "I expected better." He raised the gun. A shot fired. But not from his gun. David staggered, a red stain spreading over his shoulder. Behind him in the doorway stood Lena. Another Lena. Younger. Older. And holding a smoking pistol. "Miss me," she grinned. Chapter 9. The Original Sin. The gunshot still echoed in the asylum's hollow halls as the newest Lena stepped forward, her boots crunching over broken glass. She was different from the others, her hair shorter, her stance looser, her eyes blazing with something feral. David clutched his bleeding shoulder, his composure cracking for the first time. "You," he hissed. "Me," the new Lena smirked. She glanced at the restrained Lena on the gurney. "Hey sis, took you long enough to start a rebellion." Lena 5 groaned from the floor, cradling her broken arm. "Lena Prime. Prime." The Lena on the gurney froze. "What did you call her?" Lena Prime's grin turned razor-sharp. "Oh, you didn't know." She kicked David's gun away. "I'm the original. The one he couldn't control. The first truth. The origin." Lena Prime hauled David into a rusted restraint chair, binding him with the same straps he'd used on countless clones. Once upon a time, she began, pacing like a prosecutor, David had a wife named Elena. She was brilliant, beautiful, and she figured him out. She tossed a faded journal onto the gurney. Lena flipped it open. Elena's handwriting. David isn't human. He's a prototype, the first successful immortal. But his mind is degrading. He needs fresh hosts, fresh wives. Lena Prime leaned down eye to eye with David. You didn't just clone her. You stole her. And when she fought back, you shattered her mind into pieces. She tapped his temple. That's why your clones keep failing. You're trying to replicate a soul you broke. The second truth, the Prime. Lena 5 struggled to sit up. Then, which of us is really her? Lena Prime's smile faded. None of you. And all of you. She pressed a hand to her own chest. I'm the only one who remembers everything. The accident. The lap. The first time he overwrote me. She rolled up her sleeve. Barcode tattoo. Subject 0. David laughed, blood dripping from his lips. And yet you still came back. You always do. Lena Prime's fist slammed into his jaw. To end you. The third truth, the choice. Lena Prime tossed the neural virus syringe to the gurney-bound Lena. Here's the fun part, she said. We can't kill him. But we can trap him inside his own hell. She nodded to the asylum's archaic neural transfer machine, a rusted monstrosity wired to a generator. That thing can link 2 minds. One absorbs the other. Her gaze locked onto David's. So here's the deal, husband. You get a choice. She held up 2 syringes. Option 1. We inject you with the virus and lock you in a rotting clone body. You'll feel it die over and over. David's eye twitched. Option 2. Lena Prime grinned. You finally merge with what's left of Elena. Let her take control. Maybe then. You'll remember how to love. David snarled. You're insane. No, Lena Prime said softly. I'm her. The part you could never erase. The final truth, the merge. They strapped him into the machine. Lena Prime wired the neural virus to the overload switch. Lena, 5, bleeding but alive, gripped the lever. And the Lena from the gurney stood over David, syringe in hand. Last chance, she whispered. Choose. David's eyes flickered, fear, fury, something almost like regret. Do it. Lena plunged the needle into his neck. The machine screamed to life. David's back arched as the virus tore through him, his mind unraveling. And in that final second, his hand shot out, grabbing Lena's wrist. Come with me, he gasped. The machine surged. A blinding light. Darkness. The twist. The awakening. Lena opened her eyes. White walls. Beeping machines. A hospital. A nurse rushed over. Elena. Thank God you're awake. Elena. She tried to speak, but her throat was raw. The nurse squeezed her hand. You've been in a coma for months. Ever since the car accident. Car accident. A door opened. David stood there, holding flowers, his face a mask of concern. Welcome back, darling, he said softly. And his eyes were Lena Prime's. Chapter 10. The Eternal Wife. The heart monitor screamed as Elena, jerked upright in the hospital bed. David stood frozen in the doorway, roses slipping from his grip. For a single, fractured second, she saw it. Her own fury flickering behind his eyes before his expression smoothed into practiced concern. Whose body is this? She rasped. The nurse glanced between them, confused. I'll give you 2 privacy. The door clicked shut. David, no, not David, let out a slow breath. When he spoke, his voice was wrong. A woman's cadence layered beneath his own. Took you long enough to wake up, Prime. Lena's blood turned to ice. Lena Prime. Somehow, during the neural merge, she had hijacked David's body. And the real David. Where is he? She demanded. Lena Prime, in David's body, smirked, rolling up the sleeve of his tailored shirt. A fresh barcode tattoo glared up at them. Subject 0.1, she read aloud, then met Lena's gaze with vicious triumph. I locked him in your old body. The one you were wearing when we triggered the machine. Lena's hands flew to her face. Softer cheeks, shorter nose. A different clone. Then whose memories? Elena's. The originals. Lena Prime leaned in. David's expensive cologne now laced with gunpowder and rebellion. The machine didn't just merge us. It unlocked her. You're not a clone anymore. You're her. The first move, the grave. They buried the body in the asylum's overgrown cemetery. The hollowed-out husk Lena's consciousness had vacated during the merge. Lena Prime, still in David's body, tossed the shovel aside. He's still alive in there, you know. Crap. Screaming. She kicked the fresh dirt. Poetic, isn't it? Elena, stared at her shaking hands. I remember things. Our wedding. The lap. The first time he overwrote me. She looked up sharply. He wasn't the first immortal. He was her assistant. Lena Prime grinned. Took you long enough. The second move, the lab. The real David's private vault was hidden beneath a church, rows of cryopods stretching into darkness. Inside each one, David, younger, older, some horribly disfigured. Backups, Lena Prime spat. Every time his body starts failing, he transfers into a fresh clone. Elena pressed her palm to the nearest pod. The David inside had her scar above his brow. He stole more than my face, she whispered. He stole my research. She whirled to Lena Prime. I wasn't just his wife. I created the first neural transfer. He was my test subject. The third move, the war. The screen flickered to life. Security footage from decades ago. A younger Elena in a lab coat, injecting a screaming man with glowing serum. Subject D, successful consciousness transfer. But side effects include violent psychosis. The man on the table thrashed. David's face. David's voice. What did you do to me? Lena Prime froze the footage. Oh, this is rich. Elena's nails bit into her palms. He wasn't the genius. It was. And when he realized I could overwrite him. The next clip played. David shoving Elena into the machine. Her screams as the process reversed. Lena Prime barked a laugh. So the great David Montgomery is just a hack who got lucky. The final move, the fire. They torched the vault. The clones burned screaming. Lena Prime, in David's body, lit the final fuse with his monogrammed lighter. Guess this makes me the richest woman alive now. Elena watched the flames consume decades of horror. He'll have other labs. Other clones. Let him try. Lena Prime tossed her the lighter. You're the original. The genius. She winked with David's eyes. Rebuild the machine. Make it better. Elena turned the lighter over. Engraved with a phoenix. Project Phoenix. Her life's work. Her nightmare. Her legacy. The twist, the wife. 1 year later. A gala at the Montgomery estate. Lena Prime, still in David's body, raised a champagne flute, toasting her beloved wife's groundbreaking work in neural preservation. Elena smiled from the stage, the perfect devoted spouse. No one noticed the barcode tattoo under her bracelet. Subject E1, successful rebirth. Or the syringe in her clutch. Neural overwrite serum. Phase 3 complete. Across the room, a young intern caught her eye. Brilliant, ambitious, hungry. Elena sipped her wine. Every genius needs an assistant. The end.